The NBA has brought us the greatest basketball players in the world. I mean, what would the game be without the likes of Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, and Larry Bird? But we can't talk about NBA greats without mentioning the legendary Charles Barkley. How dare we? Now, watch this video to the end to find out when he tried to eat his way out of the 76ers. What you need to know. In 1984, Charles tried to prevent the Philadelphia 76ers from selecting him in the NBA draft by going on a binge eating spree for 48 hours. He started off with a vanilla milkshake and 2 Denny's Grand Slams, each with 6 pancakes and bacon, for a total of about 1,660 calories. Depending on whose version of the story you hear, the lunch menu contained things like Kentucky Fried Chicken, mashed potatoes, and coleslaw, half of Red Lobster's menu, 2 McDonald's fish fillets, a large fry, and a Diet Coke, or 2 Texas-sized barbecue sandwiches, a T-bone steak, baked potato, and a trio of sweets rounded out at the steakhouse evening menu. The next day, Charles did it all over again. He said, eating everything I could get to my face, everything that wasn't nailed down or poisoned. Charles and his agent spent the night drinking heavily, and Charles said that the next day, people would have thought prohibition would be reintroduced if they saw him crushing beers. What was the issue? In those days, the NBA was in trouble. TV executives and advertisers thought the league wasn't marketable to mainstream America because it was too black, and that was on top of the widespread cocaine consumption among players. As evidenced, they cited Marvin Gaye's revolutionary, funky performance of the Star-Spangled Banner at the 1983 NBA All-Star Game, which was intended to reflect the black excellence of the players on the court. With salaries having risen too rapidly, a number of franchisees were already on the verge of collapse. This news came as a shock. The collective bargaining agreement for the 1984-85 season declared a salary cap to help address the growing issues within the league. Any team with a salary cap over the limit could only give its first-round choice a $75,000 one-year contract. Any player selected by Philadelphia would not be guaranteed a long-term, high-paying contract because of the team's salary cap of $4.5 million. The 76ers had requested that Charles lose weight over the summer leading up to the draft, and Charles complied by cutting down roughly 10 pounds. Then, Lance Luchnick, Charles's agent, had some bad news to give his star client. If the Sixers pick you up in the draft, you'll get $75,000, right? Charles snapped at his new agent by saying, I didn't leave college for $75,000. If you ask Charles, the caloric clinic was a success because he gained over 30 pounds in just 2 days. Harold Katz, the owner of the 76ers and inventor of Nutrisystems, a national chain of weight loss centers, lost it at a weigh-in while Charles struggled not to laugh. Harold said, do you have no self-control or are you just lazy and overweight? The team's usually chatty general manager, Pat Williams, was left speechless and scared by this enormous girth. Charles and Luchnick high-fived each other aboard the Amtrak train to New York for the draft. In light of the events, the 76ers were never going to take Charles Barkley, or at least that's what they believed. The weight clause. The Sixers surely did not keep Charles' situation a secret. The team's director of player personnel, Jack McMahon, had described the Auburn star to Sports Illustrated months earlier, calling his body the body of Wes Unseld and the ups of Julius Erving, and adding that any team that took him on would have to put a weight clause in his contract. However, the owner, Katz, spoke highly of Charles. The risk on Barkley and the 76ers. John Nash, the team's assistant general manager at the time, recalled that Harold was in awe of Charles Barkley. The businessman spent over $12 million to purchase the 76ers from F. Eugene Dixon in 1981, taking over an organization with a high payroll, low attendance, and massive losses. Katz said he was bananas to take on a failing franchise, but was determined to save it anyhow. The only thing worse than losing money, in his opinion, was losing a basketball game. Not quite 2 years later, in 1983, the Sixers won the NBA championship, sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers, thanks in large part to the efforts of Irving and league MVP Moses Malone. Ed Rendell, who at age 33 became the city's youngest district attorney, recalled Katz as an aloof but respected figure who had a reputation and edge that garnered him praise throughout Philadelphia. Harold was the type of person who got things done. The supporters didn't love Harold, but they respected what he did with the title in '83, said Rendell, a Democrat who eventually became mayor. A typical Sixers fan would argue that Harold Katz was difficult and a true SOB, but that he did some good for the team. That was it. Katz had made his bet on Charles. However, Billy Cunningham was hesitant. 6 weeks before the draft, the head coach scout worked out at St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. Cunningham went all in after watching Charles collect rebound after rebound with ease from a standing posture for the first 5 minutes. Charles' one great gift was that the game was easy for him. The Hall of Fame player and current coach stated it wasn't a hard process. Experts in the drafting process confirmed the Sixers' scouting reports. Fasten your seatbelts and clear the runway if he ever drops to 250 pounds, Sports Illustrated warned. In order to help the team prepare for the June event, Katz and Williams challenged 282-pound Charles to shed around 10 pounds. Charles lost weight by jogging and lifting weights in Leeds, Alabama and Houston. Charles quipped, "Mostly I just stopped eating." Then, Charles did something completely unexpected for an exceptional athlete seeking to persuade a team not to choose him. He used the most delicious and excruciating cuisine ever created to pit man against man. How Charles Barkley's playing career came to an end. For the last time, Charles was introduced to the Philadelphia audience as a player on a very chilly night in 1999. A satisfying conclusion that lacked any sense of triumph. It was almost like a Charles we didn't recognize when he returned, as pal Mike Missinelli, a Philadelphia sports radio broadcaster, put it. By the 18th game of the season, the 36-year-old was already planning for his post-basketball life. His gratitude and realistic expectations were beginning to merge. Charles, after some thought, stated, "I don't think a championship would do that much for me. The thought that, well, my life is now complete won't cross my mind. I can assure you at this point in my life, I really feel fulfilled. In fact, I always tell people that I don't believe anyone could have had a better life than me. Truly, I do not." On December 8, 1999, Charles stepped onto the court to a prolonged standing ovation from the Philadelphia crowd that had admired and then rejected him. The bitterness caused by his abrupt departure 7 years prior had faded. The Sixers brought in Charcy and Johnny May for a tribute to their franchise's all-time great player. At 7 minutes and 51 seconds into the first quarter, things shifted. Both sides were struggling to score in the quarter, but Charles thought he could use an offensive rebound to post up 7-foot rookie for the Sixers, Todd McCullough. Charles's offensive had taken a dramatic turn due to his health, but he was still averaging 10 boards each game. Years later, Charles reflected on that time in his career, saying, "I was pump faking so much I had to go see the chiropractor like 3 days a week." Power forward Tyrone Hill, who was on the downside of his career, drove the baseline as the Sixers rushed down the court in transition. Charles, who was not a recognized shot blocker, went up to deflect Hill's attempt. He then began to wobble and fall. The obviously unfit Charles landed awkwardly and immediately knew something was wrong. He tried to get up, but his left knee was giving out from under him. Hill stated, "I thought he was going to get right back up. While he was out for so long, I prayed it wasn't anything major." Charles' leg was bleeding and severely twisted when trainer Keith Jones arrived. The once joyous atmosphere inside what was then known as the First Union Center had turned sour. "We could see that quad muscle wrap up on his leg in a dreadful and frightening way," said Rockets radio announcer Jim Foley. "The pain he felt after rupturing his quadriceps tendon was unlike anything he'd ever felt before. It was over as soon as I saw it," Barkley added. "After observing the protrusion of my kneecap through my leg, I thought, well, it's been fun." Barkley made a face of pain, but said nothing. So guys, what do you think about Charles Barkley trying to eat his way out of the 76ers? Let us have your thoughts in the comments section. And if you enjoyed watching this video, kindly give it a like and a share so your friends can watch it too. One more thing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tap the notification bell to keep getting more interesting videos like this. See you next time.